Hi, I'm Lisa Bardot, and today's drawing tutorial is all about hands. This video is a part of my People Skills series, a month-long sequence of tutorials and assignments that will get you familiar with the basics of drawing humans and help you develop your own people drawing style. If this is your first People Skills video, I recommend starting with the introduction and working your way through the tutorials sequentially. We'll be using the iPad app Procreate to do the tutorials, but you are more than welcome to join in with a paper and pencil or whatever medium you feel comfortable using. If you're new to Procreate, I highly recommend watching my Intro to Procreate tutorial. Let's get started! In this People Skills series, we've been learning all about how to draw people in a stylized way. This means in a way that is not realistic. Today we're tackling hands. And if you want to draw hands in a stylized fashion, you do need to understand how the real thing looks and moves. Hands are one of the most difficult things to draw. The hand has 27 bones and no less than 15 major joints, more if you count the wrist, so they have the ability to move in near countless ways. Not only that, but the hand can be viewed from any angle. All of this means there is no one-size-fits-all way to draw them. Every artist has struggled with drawing hands, and you will too. As you're learning, your hands are going to look bad. But that doesn't mean you have to feel bad about it. The more you practice, the better you will get, and you are taking a huge step just by getting past your intimidation and getting started with it. You got this! In our last video, we learned all about fingers, practicing drawing them in over 24 different ways. I would definitely start with the finger practice before moving on to hands in this video. That being said, let's talk about drawing hands. First, let's figure out the minimal depiction, or what is the least amount of information we need to visually depict a hand. Every human is familiar with the hand shape. It's a shape with 5 long shapes coming off of it. In fact, any shape with 5 lines can be seen as a hand. And really, you don't even need the shape. That's how recognizable hands are. Now that we know that, let's look at the hand and determine the basic elements, or the details that make a hand a hand. The first thing is the palm, which is our base shape. The next characteristic is that hands have 5 digits, 4 fingers and a thumb. There are some characteristics of the fingers themselves, which we learned about in our last lesson, such as fingernails, skin wrinkles and creases, and more. Our next element is the quality that hands are bendable and movable. They have at least 15 obvious joints, plus the wrist, and that's a very important fact to keep in mind. Some of those joints are at the knuckles, which are the bony protrusions on the back of the hands at the base of the fingers. While the back of the hand is pretty flat and bony, the palm is made up of 3 fleshy parts, right under the fingers, at the bottom of the thumb, and on the side. These fleshy parts are actually what create the palm lines or creases, which we'll consider to be another element. Also, there's some creases here at the wrist, which kind of form like a flat W shape. Finally are the proportions of the hand. One piece of information that will help you immensely is that, on most people, the length of the middle finger is about equal to the length of the palm. I say for most people because apparently I have short fingers. So now we've determined the basic elements of the hand. But I want to dig a little bit deeper on this element, the fact that the hand can move and bend. So let's go over the basic elements of hand movement. The hands can grasp, point, make a fist, wave, snap, grip, gesture, communicate, and so much more. So first, when a hand is relaxed, all the fingers and palm are bent, making sort of a cupped shape. When all the fingers are extended, they splay outwards and also point up a bit. Fingers can also bend backwards when pressed against something. When the fingers close, the pinky goes down first, followed by the other fingers sequentially, with the thumb closing last. The thumb, when closed, goes up and across the palm. When in the closed position, the fingers converge, pointing to the center of the palm. The wrist can move up and down, or side to side. These are some of the basic elements of hand movement. Next, we're going to start developing a system that will help us find the basic shapes that make up a hand. Get out your phone and take a picture of your hand. Get that photo to your iPad and import it to your Procreate canvas. Create a new layer so you can draw over the top of it. When drawing the hand, it's best to start with the base shape, or the palm. I can simplify that into a trapezium, or trapezoid for you British folks. The shape is taller on the side with the pointer finger. I can see that the fingers wouldn't connect directly to this shape, so I'll add a curve to the top. Let's mark the joints with circles, including the knuckles. It's good to note that nothing really lines up straight with the hands. We're going to be working with a lot of curves, so let's look for things that line up with curves. So for the finger joints, I could try to line up all the joints with curves like this, and I guess that works. But what I see is that the bottom joint lines up with the top joint of the pinky, and the top joints of the finger line up with the top of the pinky. I like this because the curves are a bit more concentric. So you could do it either way, it's just about what makes sense to you. As I mentioned earlier, for most people, the length of the middle finger is the same as the height of the palm. Let's look at how the thumb connects. Here I see a triangle shape with the protruding corner being where the joint of the thumb is. Finally, let's quickly think about the internal structure of the hand. Inside the hand there is a mass of bones right here above the wrist, to which all the finger bones are connected. One more thing. Let's notice that the middle finger is the tallest, followed by the ring finger, the pointer, and last the pinky. Are you thoroughly confused yet? Let's simplify that into something more basic. First, I'll sketch the end of the arm so that I have a base for my hand. I'll draw my trapezium shape and add the little curve on top. Now that I know the height of the palm, I can estimate the length of the middle finger. Divide the finger length into thirds for the joints. Lay out some lines as guides for the direction of the other fingers. Now that we know the length of the middle finger, we know that the ring finger is just a bit shorter than that, so draw it and divide it into thirds. We also know that the pinky is the same height as this ring finger joint, so we can draw that and divide it into thirds. Then we also know that the pointer finger is a little shorter than the ring finger, so we can draw that as well. Now we'll add the triangle for the thumb and a notation of the joint. Then draw in the shape of the thumb based on what we learned in the finger tutorial. Let's create a new layer and outline this whole thing and add in some lines in the creases, and that's not a terrible looking stylized hand, especially when you consider the fact that if I drew it without the structure, it would look something like this. I will admit that this amount of information is kind of overwhelming, but I want you to try and commit those facts to memory and then tuck them in the back of your mind. All of this knowledge won't give you the ability to perfectly draw hands from memory in any pose you dream up. But your knowledge of these facts will help you recognize certain characteristics in references, which is where your hand drawing journey is going to start. Next, I'll teach you how to analyze reference photos to find the basic shapes that will help you draw your own version of that hand pose. You ready to jump in? I found my reference photos on sites like Pixabay, Pexels, and Unsplash. They have a ton of photos which are free to use for any purpose. You can also find them by doing a Google image search for reference photos of hands. I'll start with this photo because it's pretty similar to what we've been doing. I suggest that you not trace the photo, instead draw it off to the side. This will help you get more comfortable with creating those shapes. Always start by drawing the end of the arm to give you a base. Now I see the trapezium shape and the curve on top. I know I need to divide that shape into fours and add the knuckles as a guide. I'll also add the general directions of the fingers before I start to figure out how long to make them. Start with the middle finger, making it the same-ish length as the palm, and then add in the lengths of the other fingers based on what you learned earlier. The ring finger is a little bit shorter, and the pointer is even shorter than that. The pinky is as tall as the top ring finger joint. I'm adding a triangle for the thumb based on what I see in the photo. Then I'll add a line for the thumb and add the thumb shape. That's my sketch. On a new layer, I can outline it and add in a few details. Something to note about the creases in between the fingers. Look at the back of your hand and squish your fingers together to see the direction of those creases. The rule of thumb is that the middle finger rules. The creases all point away from the middle finger. You might have spent a fair amount of time on that. But next, I want you to draw the same thing as quickly as possible. The point of this is to get you really familiar with what lines make up this pose and help you learn what the fewest lines are that you need to draw it. These probably aren't going to look that great, but that's okay. Let's do another one. The fingers are splayed in a similar fashion, but this time the hand is at an angle. Draw the arm and wrist, and then the trapezium. Add the thumb triangle. Now, figure out where the knuckles are and add your middle finger. You can make it a cylinder to help you figure out the volume. Draw lines for the other fingers and figure out the length. Now add in the thumb using the photo as a reference. Let's outline it on a new layer. The fingernails and the wrinkles are really going to help convey the hands being at an angle. Getting rid of the sketch, now I see some problems near the thumb, so I'll fix that. Maybe I'll even add some shading between the fingers. Now I'll do a really fast version of that. By doing this, I'm jogging my brain about everything that I just did, which helps you commit it to memory. Don't forget to turn off your underlying sketch to see what's working and what's not working. Here's another one. I actually really like the side angle of the hand. When you draw the side angle, here's what I look for: the overall side shape. Once you get the front shape, all you have to do is add the fingers that are behind it. Use some lines for direction, and then use what you learned about what bent fingers look like from the previous lesson to draw those in. Turn off your sketch and see what parts you're missing or what you got wrong. The more you recognize and correct your mistakes, the more you're going to learn. Do another really quick version. Again, this is not about replicating the original photo, it's about figuring out a quick way to draw that pose, which will help you learn to stylize. Let's do another one. In this one, the hand is partially closed. Start with the wrist, which appears to be angled up. Figure out where the knuckles are and find the overall direction of the fingers. Remember when I said the fingers point into the center of the palm when closed? You can really see that here. The thumb will have a little triangle shape, but since the thumb is moving in, we can make a rounded shape to denote the fleshy part. Also, pay attention to what fingers are overlapping. Generally, the pinky will be on the bottom because it closes first. Remember that? Let's do a quick version of that as well. The more times you do this, the more you will learn. Again, don't worry that they look a little off kilter. The important thing is that you start to identify why they are looking off. Let's do a fist. Instead of attaching the fingers to the palm shape, let's add some forms for the knuckles. Remember that the fingers point inward when closed. And don't forget your fast version. In this one, the fingers are all bent in different ways. In the quick version, I decided it would be more helpful to make the 3D shape for the initial sketch. Okay, one more. How about a little baby hand? The proportions of children's hands are different than that of adults. These fingers are much shorter and fatter. So cute and chubby. Studying and drawing from references is a great way to get familiar with drawing hands. Figure out a few poses that you might find useful when making your people illustrations, like a relaxed hand, a fist, a hand gripping something, and more. You get to decide what poses are going to be useful to you. I hope you found this tutorial handy. Get it? Handy, yeah. Now it's time for you to do your homework. Go back to the beginning of the video and study the qualities of the hand and its movements. Take a picture of your hand and trace over it to find the overall shape and structure. Then find a whole bunch of reference photos. Look at each one individually and look for the basic shapes that will help you draw it freehand. Spend some time drawing the reference once. And then do another drawing super fast. If you really want to challenge yourself, try drawing it again without looking at your reference. You can find out more about this assignment on the lesson page, including a Pinterest board I made full of additional resources. Find all that plus an organized list of all the people skills lessons at bardobrush.com/people. I've put a link in the description. I hope you'll join us in our next tutorial where we're going to learn about arms. Be sure to subscribe and tap the little bell icon so you don't miss it. I made People Skills as a part of my Making Art Everyday project. It's a series of drawing prompts, tutorials, and motivation to help you overcome creative fears and establish a daily art making practice. Learn more at bardobrush.com/joinMAE. If you'd like to purchase the brushes used in this tutorial, you can find them and many more at bardobrush.com. If you're posting your art to Instagram, I would love to see it. Use the hashtag #BardobRush. Thanks and happy art making! If you like this video, please subscribe for more awesome tutorials. And check out one of my other videos. Have a great day!